gallop with no roof and half a door. Rain gets in the rafters and runs across the floor. Inside there stands a piano, black from smoking years. 3 keys still answer like they've been waiting there. Play low, play slow. Let the dead girl know. She sang there every Friday with a voice like torn blue cloth. Men would start out laughing, then leave looking lost. She never smiled for money, never begged for hands, just sang like she was leaving someplace no one understands. Play low, play slow. Let the dead girl know. The fire took the whiskey, the roof and the lights, but it didn't take the last song from that terrible night. The walls fell open, the bottles turned to sand, but somewhere in the ashes she is still raising her hand. I knew her for one summer, if knowing means a name. A cigarette at closing and shelter from the rain. I never said I loved her, she never asked me to. Some things stay almost honest because they never turn true. They said bad wire started it, they said the wind was wrong. They said she went back in there to save her book of songs. But men who lie for comfort still sleep with what they know. And every time I pass that place I hear those 3 keys go. The fire took the whiskey, the roof and the lights, but it didn't take the last song from that terrible night. The walls fell open, the bottles turned to sand, but somewhere in the ashes she is still raising her hand. There's a burned out bar near Gallup where I stop when I ride through. I press those keys with 2 fingers and leave before they're through. Behind a pawn shop in a room that smells like green soap. One lamp over the table, one chair for letting go. Men coming after funerals, after prison, after fights. with names written on paper and dead friends in their eyes. A date on the wrist, a cross on the chest, a name by the heart for the ones who left, a skull near the shoulder, a line on the hand. He marks the skin when words won't stand. He never asked for stories, but they come out anyway. Between the buzz of needles and the old fan's lazy sway. A brother in Montana, a son who overdosed, a woman who stopped waiting, a dog they miss the most, a date on the wrist, a cross on the chest, a name by the heart for the ones who left, a skull near the shoulder, a line on the hand. He marks the skin when words won't stand. On his own right forearm there's a blank spot no one sees. He touches it at closing like a man touching a key. His wife died in September before he found the nerve to put her name forever where forever might still hurt. One night a kid came shaking, wanted no regrets in red. The old man cleaned the needle, then shook his heavy head. He said, "Son, that's a lie, and lies age worse than scars. Let me write her birthday, or the truth of who you are. A date on the wrist, a cross on the chest, a name by the heart for the ones who left, a word you can carry, a wound you can stand." He marks the skin when words won't stand. He locks up after midnight with ink beneath his nails. Some men write songs, some men leave trails.
Cold eggs at the diner, 6:30 in the rain. I was trying not to think much about anything with a name. And then Tommy Lee walked in there with a cane and a bad right eye. 10 years since the parking lot where he almost made me die. I had a fork in my hand, not a knife in my boot. Sometimes getting older just means losing the use. He saw me quit scraping bacon like breakfast feared death. He nodded once, I nodded, that was all we had to spend. Some men don't need forgiveness, just an ending they can bend. I had a fork in my hand, not a knife in my boot. Sometimes getting older just means losing the use. He sat 3 stools over, ordered coffee and toast. His hand shook with sugar, mine shook with ghosts. I wanted to say something mean enough to feel young, but my anger had no engine and no oil on its tongue. Outside his pickup rusted, mine was leaking too. 2 old bad decisions in the same gray view. The waitress filled our coffee like she'd seen all kinds of wars, and knew most men are children with scars instead of toys. I had a fork in my hand, not a knife in my boot. Sometimes getting older just means losing the youth. But I swallowed it down. Not every grave gets dug in the middle of town. Cold eggs at the diner, rain clearing by 10. I paid for both our breakfasts and never saw him again. No gas in Wichita, that's what Eddie said. Like it was God's own judgment on the stupid and half dead. We were 10 miles from a station with a hot wind in our teeth. 2 old backs complaining like they had somewhere to be. Said, man, we used to ride all night. I said, yeah, and wake up fine. He said, now my back goes out if I sneeze at the wrong time. We laughed like it was funny because some of it was true. No gas in Wichita and nothing else to do. We pushed those heavy bastards past a field of burned corn, cussing every chrome part we used to love before. Eddie said his daughter had a baby last July. Said he hadn't gone to see him and didn't tell me why. He said, man, we used to ride all night. I said, yeah, and wake up fine. He said, now my back goes out if I sneeze at the wrong time. We laughed like it was funny because some of it was true. No gas in Wichita and nothing else to do. Then the laughing went quiet like a bar after bad news. He said, I'm scared they'll see me and know what I used to lose. I said, kids don't need clean men,
show. He nodded at the blacktop and kept pushing slow. A farmer named Louise pulled up in a Ford, had 2 cans in the truck bed and a face that looked bored. She said, "You boys look ancient." Eddie said, "That's unkind." She said, "No, that's factual." And we nearly lost our minds. He said, "Man, we used to ride all night." I said, "Now we barely do." He said, "I might see that grandkid." I said, "Hell, I'll ride with you." We laughed because it hurt some, and because it pulled us through. No gas in Wichita, and one good thing to do. By sunset, we were rolling, slow, crooked, and sore, sometimes running empty gets you somewhere more. The doctor talked in numbers, the way men talk when they don't feel. White coat, soft hands, and a bill too big to be real. My wife sat by the window with a scarf around her head, said maybe sell the motorcycle, then looked away instead. I can sell my tools, I can sell my ring, I can sell the booze that carried everything. But that old bike knows every mile we survived. It ain't worth much money, but it kept us both alive. It out of Reno when her first husband got me. Rode it through 3 hard winters with no heat and broken dreams. She learned to sleep behind me with her cheek against my back. Said the engine made her feel safe when the world went black. I can sell my tools, I can sell my ring, I can sell the booze that carried everything. But that old bike knows every mile we survived. It ain't worth much money, but it kept us both alive. On the south side of town, he walked around it twice, then tried to talk me down. I saw her in the chrome at 29 and wild, laughing through the desert like trouble was a child. I rode back home at sunset with no check in my vest. She was sleeping in the bedroom with the quilt across her chest. I sat down in the hallway and cried without a sound. Some men break standing up, some men break break kneeling down. I can sell my tools, I can sell my ring, I can sell the booze that carried everything. But that old bike knows the woman I still see. And if it has to leave this house, it's leaving after me. Preacher keeps a helmet behind the baptism door. Black paint cracked like dry ground from a life he don't wear no more. He talks about redemption with a voice that stays real still, but his hands know how to tighten a chain on Mason Hill. Wash me clean, but leave the scars. A man can kneel and still be far. Ring that bell, but ring it low. Some roads follow wherever you go. Wherever you go. The town and married all the rest. Held babies in the morning, held secrets to his chest. Oh, bikers sat in back pews on Sundays twice a year. Never bowed their heads much, but they always came to hear. Wash me clean, but leave the scars. A man can kneel and still be far. Ring that bell, but ring it low. Some roads follow wherever you go. Wherever you go. A young man found it while hiding from the rain. Said, Pastor, were you like us? He said, boy, don't dress up pain. Then he told him about a border, a shovel and a light, and how God don't make you spotless. He just asks you not to hide. When the preacher died in winter, the church was full of black. His widow took that helmet and laid it near his back. No flowers on the altar, no speech about his grace, just one old riding helmet where the truth could show its face. Wash him clean, but leave the scars. A man can kneel and still be far. Ring that bell, but ring it slow. Some roads follow. Even when you go. Even when you go. Behind the baptism door, there's an empty wooden shelf. Some men couldn't reach salvation, to keep from judging themselves.
There's a hotel by the viaduct with a red sign missing teeth. Rooms rented by the hour to men who cannot sleep. The clerk has one glass eye and a voice like wet cement. He don't ask where you're coming from, he only asks what's spent. Welcome, brother, lay your burden down. The sheets are thin, but the silence is sound. Welcome, brother, no need to shout. This is the hotel where nobody checks out. Room 7 held a gambler with a Bible full of cash. Room 9 had a rider who burned his colors in the bath. Room 12 still smells of roses, though no woman stayed in years. Room 3 keeps dripping water, like the building has tears. Welcome, brother, lay your burden down. The sheets are thin, but the silence is sound. Welcome, brother, no need to shout. This is the hotel where nobody checks out. I took room 11 with a view of the tracks. Put my pistol in the drawer and my coat across the cracks. On the wall someone had written in a hand both neat and small, every man brings one ghost in, but he leaves with them all. At midnight came the footsteps, but nobody passed my door. Then whispering from the hallway, the knuckles on the floor. I saw faces in the mirror, men I'd known and men I'd been, all waiting by the bedside like they had paid to get in. Welcome, brother, lay your burden down. The sheets are thin,
the silence is sound. Welcome, brother. No road, no route. This is the hotel where nobody checks out.
There's a bar off Highway 6 where the neon buzzes blue. Old wood floors, cheap draft beer, and folks like me come through. A welder with a busted wrist, a driller with a cough, a woman in a denim coat who looks like she's had enough. This is my bar stool, hallelujah. Not holy, but it'll do. This is my bar stool, hallelujah, for the broke down and the true. Rosie wipes the counter slow, like she's sanding off the week. Knows who's lying, who's in pain, who just came in not to speak. She sets my glass before I ask, says, "You riding through?" I say, "Mostly, yeah." She says, "That tracks," and leaves me to the room. No choir robes, no stained glass light, just jukebox hymns and Friday night. A young guy in a brand new cut starts talking hard and fast till Big Roy laughs and says, "Sit down, son. That shine ain't built to last." The whole place grins into their drinks like they've all seen this before. That's how mercy looks in places like this. A joke and one round more. This is my bar stool, hallelujah, where the hurt gets laid down loose. This is my bar stool, hallelujah, where the truth don't need excuse. No saving light, no clean breakthrough, just one more night getting through. There was blood in the low beam, not much but enough. A red little warning on the dust and the bugs. I wiped it with my sleeve at a station closed down. then stared at my own hand like it came from the ground. I should have turned back sooner. I should have said your name, but some men hear the warning and still ride toward the flame. You called me from a back room with the music turned low. Said don't make me ask you for help you already owe. I told you I was busy, told you I was too far, then sat there doing nothing in a motel bar. I should have turned back sooner. I should have said your name, but some men hear the warning and still ride toward the flame. By midnight I was rolling through the cold county black, your last words in my jacket like a knife in the back. The road had no shoulder, the moon had no face. Every mile got quieter like it knew my place. I found him near the rail yard, blue lights in the rain, your bike on its left side still ticking like pain. Nobody said murder, nobody said why, just a sheet over your boots and my throat gone dry. I should have turned back sooner. I should have said your name, but some men hear the warning and still ride toward the flame. I should have picked up faster. I should have known your fear. Now every road behind me sounds like you breathing near. Across the county line at dusk with rain on the gas tank scene. One weak headlight, one bad left hand, and a head full of old machines. The radio spitting nothing clean, just preacher hiss and weather. Like God and static got mixed up and couldn't work together. There's a cold in me that the road won't be.
past the bar in Miller's Bend, where we bloodied up the floor. You laughed that laugh like dying young was something men were for. Now your name comes back in truck stop glass in the shine of coffee spoons. In every booth with one seat empty, in every tired motel moon. No law behind me, no debt unpaid, just memory driving like a rusted blade. In a roadside cafe said, "Honey, you look done." I said, "Man, I got a little left, just not the kind called fun." She topped my cup and walked away like she'd heard that line before. Some people know a man is sinking by how he shuts the door. There's a cold in me that the road won't beat. There's a hurt in me that don't need sleep. I keep riding, 'cause standing still runs deep. There's a cold